URC round number 13, folks. Glasgow up against Munster. First bit of URC action I've tuned into since the end of the Six Nations. I kind of opted to watch this one ahead of the Lions in Cardiff, who played at the same time. I mainly saw the lineups and thought, Kyle Staines back. Let's see how that guy's going to go, seeing as he's kind of back from injury, and I think he went pretty well. But yeah, Glasgow had to pull this one out of the fire with a couple of late tries. I feel like if you're Munster, you'll be disappointed you couldn't take more advantage of the early opportunities when they had all the territory and the possession. And then, 60 minutes in the lead. That is a pretty brutal one. It was 25-14 with 15 minutes to go. Couldn't quite hang on. Close enough for a losing bonus point, but still that'll be kind of small consolation. But yeah, we'll go through some of the key events and the stats. You guys can let us know your thoughts. Seemed pretty windy in Glasgow. It's supposed to be spring. Is it windy in spring in Glasgow? It's like autumn here in New Zealand. It's sunshine and hardly any wind to speak of. To be fair, we have had a bit of rain this week. But yeah, it was a bit of a contrast. Just watching that on the tally. Windy and chilly, seemingly, in Glasgow. And as I said, it was affecting the guys. The goal kicking was not too bad, but there were certainly a few touch finders which went awry with the kind of heavy crosswind. But Munster, early, heaps of pressure. Oh my goodness, so much ball. And Glasgow just looked passive. It was all Munster's initiative. They had 5-metre mauls, not opting for threes. They ended up knocking the ball on, which was a bit of a let-off for Glasgow. They continued to put pressure on, but again kind of took it off when Fanine Wycherley ended up tipping one of the Glasgow players beyond the horizontal when he was trying to clean him out. It was very unnecessary, and he gets himself yellow carded for it. So all the pressure, nothing to show for it but a card. As I said, it'd be pretty frustrating for Munster. However, despite the yellow card, they continue to look the better side, and they get the first points of the game, despite the fact they've only got 14 guys on the field. It is turnover ball. Cross kick finishes it with Butler kicking it to, I think it's Ben O'Connor, and he unselfishly pops it inside to Hodnett, who's on the kind of support line, because O'Connor was risking being tackled himself, but he could have gone for the line, but not unselfish play. And good kick for Poles means it's 7 points to 0 Munster, despite the fact that they have the man in the bin, and then they win the yellow card, 7 points to 0. And then after the yellow card, Sean O'Brien, he gets his first of 2 tries in this game. He extends Munster's lead with a bunch of pressure. Some nice phases. They get themselves over the advantage line seemingly with ease. It'd be a bit, frustrating for Franco Smith just to see the guys seemingly not really woken up, but the Munster guys are fired up. And it's a bounce pass, but it's a great reach from O'Brien. The kind of go gadget arms to get over the line. So 12 points to 0, and Munster looking very, very good value for their lead. That maybe is the wake-up call for Glasgow, because they do start to play some rugby. We see them get their offload game going, which they know they've got in their locker. Guys like Ollie Smith, Stafford McDowell, and George Horn combined for Horn's try. The final kind of chicken wing offload from McDowell was a pretty sweet one, deserving of a try. So 12 points to 7. The Glasgow fans are actually given something to cheer about, because there's not been a lot going their way thus far. But then Munster on 32 minutes kicked the penalty to at least kind of arrest some of that momentum and take it back to a 2-score game. But then how good to see Kyle Staines just in full flight again. Scrum, set play, wide ball. That guy sees just enough of a gap that he thinks if he puts the hammer down, he'll go through. He does. They can't catch him, and it is 14 points to 15 at halftime. So only a 1-point game, despite the fact that Munster's had 63% possession, 65% territory. They've had so many chances. The missed tackle count, interestingly, is 18 to 16, with Glasgow having missed 18. So that seems bad defensively for Glasgow, but actually I think it reflects worse on Munster, because Munster's had to make way fewer tackles. So their tackle percentage is in the 70s, Munster. That will be one thing that's frustrating, whereas Glasgow, despite missing 18 tackles, overall were relatively kind of solid defensively. Penalty count 6-4, so kind of lowish. Staines already beaten 7 defenders in the first half. Coombs is not that far behind with 6 for Munster. Second half, bit more of an arm wrestle, especially on bit of Johnny Matthews' footwork. The big hooker for Glasgow was maybe the highlight of the kind of first 10 minutes of that second half. But then Munster get the first points of the second half from the boot, extends the lead to 18 points to 14. There was often a 4-point gap in this game, to be fair. And then Glasgow, when they had penalties, some of them kickable, some of them not really going for them, but nothing really doing. At least 2 kicks missed touch because of the wind. First one I can kind of accept, like, all right, you maybe thought you could kick it more into the wind than that. But then the second one, it was only a few minutes later. Surely you learned your lesson from the first kick that didn't find touch, but nope. So, yeah, missed opportunities, and it just felt like it was slipping through Glasgow's hands, especially when O'Brien gets his second. It's after Glasgow have had a huge period of pressure, come away with not much, and then Munster, no mistake from them. I think it was Tom Farrell with the great fend in the offload. How many people are named Farrell in Ireland? That seems like a really common surname. There's a lot of Farrells. A lot of them seem to be in the midfield as well, but Tom Farrell, sets up O'Brien, so 25 points to 14. I don't want to say it's dead and buried, but she's pretty close. Pretty close at that point, but, I mean, Glasgow, they wanted to play at tempo this game. I mean, how many times did we see them when they conceded points? They wanted to do that quick restart thing. They wanted to keep the tempo going, sometimes quick lineouts, but Cancellieri, he went quickly from a penalty. Matt Fagerson was able to go over in reply. That kept the game alive. There's only 10 minutes to go. And then Nathan Macbeth on 77 minutes. They've literally been behind for an hour in this game, Glasgow, but they finally, for the first time, take the lead. Probably the best period of the game. The end of the game for Glasgow in terms of actually having some ball in the right area of the field. So they took the lead 28 points to 25. There was one last throw of the dice for Munster. They went through a heap of phases towards the middle of the pitch, but eventually Jack Mann was able to win. Penalty at the breakdown, which sees Glasgow walk away with the win. The turnovers won for both sides was pretty incredible. 9 to Munster, 7 to Glasgow. That's a lot for one game of rugby. Sometimes you can see it be, 3-2 or 5-3, something like that. But to have 9-7 is massive. Like Coombs won 3. Vailanu and Gregor Brown from the bench both won 2 each. So Gregor Brown's impact, I think, was pretty good for Glasgow. Line breaks 6-4. Also pretty high. Kyle Stain got himself into some space. Some run meters from him. 107. He tops the match for that. Jack Mann, 23 tackles on defence. Dermot Barron, 18 tackles. Gavin Coombs, 17 tackles. So, yeah, some big plays from players on both sides. The penalty count for Munster finished at 14, which is just a touch too high. 8 for Glasgow. Glasgow have got the Lions next at home. They'll be looking to put in more of an 80-minute performance, you would think, because they left it late, but they got it done. And Munster, away to Connacht, I believe, will want to finish the game a bit stronger because they will be, as I said, very disappointed to lead for an hour and then only come away with the 1 point. But yeah, it was a good start to the URC weekend for mine. You guys let us know your thoughts on the game, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. Ciao.